Thoughts and feelings are a part of every situation. We cannot say that they cannot be there, because when we're trying to say that a thought cannot be a part of the situation, then our brain will start scan for all that reminds of this thought, and we will get double of it. So we need to accept that thoughts and feelings are a part of every uncomfortable situation and also a comfortable situation. But the way to get the best out of the situation is to accept those thoughts and feelings as a part of the process, but know that we don't need to act on the thoughts and feelings. We can act on values instead.
That was Camilla Salling Olsen, and this is a My Vegan Personal Trainer podcast with Remy, episode number 6.
Welcome to the My Vegan Personal Trainer podcast, where it's all about living a fit, plant-based lifestyle so you can thrive in life while caring for the planet and animals. And now, your host, medical doctor, CrossFit athlete, and online personal trainer, Remy.
Hey, it's Remy, and welcome to episode number 6 of the My Vegan Personal Trainer podcast. What if I told you that, like Pinocchio, we at times have strings holding us back from being the real boy or girl we always wanted to be? Especially under pressured situations, these strings can make us take the emotional route instead of taking the value-driven path that actually leads us to the result we want. Our today's guest will give us the scissors needed to cut those strings for us to become our best self under even the most stressful of situations. With a background in competitive freediving and a master thesis in sports psychology, she has developed a unique method of mental training that anybody can use to train their mental strength. Performances like holding her breath for over 6 minutes and being able to swim 150 meters with no fins, corresponding to 6 laps with only one breath in your regular 25-meter pool, places her among the best female freedivers in Denmark. I was coached by her for 3 months earlier this year to optimize my performance, resulting in multiple personal bests in training, including being able to hold my breath from about 2 minutes to over 4 minutes, and from being able to swim just a bit over 1 lap of a 25-meter pool with no fins up to almost 3 full laps underwater. Subscribe if you're not a member of the tribe already. And now just a little boring disclaimer. The information provided in this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not meant to take the place of professional medical, dietetic, or fitness advice. Consult with the relevant professional for your specific situation. Help me welcome the lady with the scissors, Camilla Salling Olsen. Oh, Camilla, welcome on the My Vegan Personal Trainer podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing very good, thanks.
Thanks for wanting to come on the podcast. You are early post pregnancy phase with a little baby that you need to take care of, and still you had some time and a little bit of energy to join the show today. So yeah, super grateful that you could find some time for it.
Of course.
So welcome again. So I've already made a somewhat of a killer intro to you, but just in your own words, how would you like to present yourself to the listener? Who is Camilla Salling Olsen?
I'm a dreamer and I am a performer. I like to go into myself and see how much I can get out of myself in freediving and in life in general. Where can my dreams go to? Yeah.
So basically, a dreamer who, someone who dreams but also puts action behind those ideas to get the dream becoming reality. Basically, I suppose that's what you mean.
Yes, exactly. So I have big dreams and I also have the way to go there, I think.
Yeah, and also that can also be also is reflected in your in what you do with freediving and the numbers that you've come up to, and you are you're an elite freediver, one of the best in one of the best female freedivers in the world. No, or how would you? I don't know how is the ranking with Aida.
Yeah, I am one of the best, but not the best. So there's still some way to that. Um, but uh, but some of the best female freedivers in Denmark.
Yeah, 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 yes. No, because I remember we had this. You have this. It's IDA, the organization you compete in, right? That have a listing over all athletes, right?
Yeah, so in 2021, I was in top 10 in the world. So every year they make a new list of the best free divers in the world.
As I also mentioned in the intro, I've been super blessed by being able to work with you. I got an interest in freediving, and I had you as a coach for a 3 month period earlier this year, and I got a lot of out of it. Improved a lot on my own numbers. Nothing doesn't come anywhere near what you guys do as elite freedivers, but just the personal development part and getting beating your own personal best. It was all worth it, the work we had together. So again, thank you for that coaching period that we had together. But what we'll be diving into today will be a focus on optimizing our approach when it comes to going for a certain mission in that we have in life. Now I work with you because I just want to get better at freediving, and also I got lots of those tools that we will be presenting in this episode to just help me perform better in not only in freediving but also other things. But also, from what I can see on your website, you're also working with runners, with other type of athletes that have nothing to do with freediving. Also business people, I suppose, and elite soldiers that you work with in terms of freediving, and using that as a tool to tap into optimizing our performance physically and mentally. So could you maybe share a bit, yeah, some words on this project that you have?
Yeah, it all began when I was doing my master thesis. I have studied sports and health, specialized in competition and elite sport. And in my master thesis, I was trying to figure out if freediving could be used as a mental tool for improving your mental performance and performance in general, because mental performance is a part of that. So I had two athletes, elite athletes, I was working with for 3 months, an athlete for kayaking and an athlete in rowing. And both of them were practicing their mental performance during freediving. So I was taking them to the swimming pool. They were holding their breath, and we were trying to work with their pressured eye. That should also help them in their own sport.
Yeah. So you put them in a situation where they get to meet their pressured self. So the state of being under pressure.
Yes, exactly. So during their breath hold, they met some of their uh, pressured feelings and thoughts and all that kind of stuff, which also happened in their own sport. But during freediving, you are able to hold your breath again and again and again without exhausting yourself. Imagine you are an triathlete. If you should do an Ironman every time, you should try to work with your mental performance. Then you would exhaust yourself. But during freediving and during the discipline static, where you're just holding, lying still and hold your breath, then you are able to work isolated with the mental part. So we could like hold our breath like again and again and again. They could meet the pressured self again and again and try to work and put some tools to improve themselves. And during this master thesis, I found out that the athlete really learned some tools that they could bring into their own sport. So freediving is in this case used as a case for improving the mental part.
Yeah, yeah. So in a way, it's a simple and effective way to dissect the mind when it's pressured, without having to go on an Ironman and exhaust yourself yeah, but just get on the surface of the water, and now we are starting to work on exactly what we want to, and we don't need to be running or swimming a lot right now. um and how did that translate to those candidates that participated? Like, what did you measure in terms of performance?
In our work, we talked a lot about those thoughts and feelings that comes in your mind when you are pressured or tired, like different kind of situations, also in their own sport. So we had a talk about what happened when you hold your breath, what kind of thoughts and feelings are coming up in that situation. But we also talked about what they feel and what kind of thoughts they have in their own sport when they are going through some training and also performances. And they figure out that some of the same thoughts and feelings are happening in their breath hold and in their sports. So when we practice some of the mental tools in the breath hold, they were able to copy the tools into their own trainings. So to say that you can be in many kind of situations, but the way that you are pressured is the same.
Yeah, it's still you. It's still you, the same person. If, for example, you, Camilla, or me, or it's still the same person, just in different situations. And therefore, there will be those patterns that we experience again and again. And in terms of those tools and also talking about this happening in different situations, this is also what we'll be focusing on in today's episode, where we basically will be sharing these tools with the purpose of whether you are interested in freediving or not. I don't suspect there are many freedivers listening to this podcast, but to any person listening to this who will be using those tools, he or she will be able to implement these tools in all walks of life and better their performance and be more alignment with the values they seek to be acting from. Um, so yeah, it's going to be a killer episode. By the way, Camilla, my slogan is "Change your mindset, change your life." I've been having this slogan for a pretty long time. For like I started this project back in 2014, and right about that time, I started with a slogan, but I never made any type of content, any type of interview that directly works on changing your mindset, changing your life. But this here is the perfect interview to actually address this. So let's get right into it with the tools. So we have a mission in life where it could be just in general, or it could also be, okay, I want to be better at running. But we as individuals, we all have a mission in terms of what we want to achieve, how we want to be at in life. And then we as humans, we're not perfect sometimes, especially when we are under pressure situations. uh, we can tend to take the easy shortcut to be acting from values that we don't really identify as being part of who we really want to be. But it does happen still sometimes that we just sometimes in life end up being saying things or doing things that we might not be uh, fully proud and happy with the way we did it in that situation. So this is where this Pinocchio exercise that we had worked with before when we were in this coaching program, and now we'll be sharing this with the listener. So could you maybe talk a bit about this Pinocchio exercise and how do we do this exercise?
Yeah, first of all, I think that just to come up with some examples of moments where you're not proud of yourself. I think many of us have tried to sit in a situation where we are going to solve a problem on the laptop, and it's like a very challenging problem, and you are like, you don't have the solutions. So suddenly you find yourself on Facebook checking for any notifications, because that is a much easier place to be. Because when you are clicking on Facebook, then the uncomfortable situation is on the side. So you step out of the uncomfortable situation and into the Facebook where you can breathe again, because then you don't have to find the solution. And in that situation, you acted on your feelings. Another example is when you are together with other people. It could be like kids. Now I have a little baby, so I am not like experiencing so much yet, but I know that parents with children that is really trying to challenge the parenthood, they sometimes find themselves yelling at the kids. And in that situation, the parents are acting on their feelings, because after they have yelled at the kids, then they are not super proud of themselves and they are regretting that they yelled at them because they wanted to act in another way. They wanted to be another parent in that pressured situation.
Yeah. And another example, just to add to it, also because it will be very relevant to the listeners, I suppose emotional eating could also be a great example. Let's say you're tired, you're a bit sad, and then you start, emptying this cookie box, for example. This is also an example of going down the emotional route.
Exactly. So you are like super tired, maybe super sad about, yeah, whatever, and then you are suddenly finding yourself with an empty cookie box and you are like regretting again that you ate all those cookies because that was not like what you wanted to do, but you did it because the feelings were, yeah, sending you that way. So yeah, many of us have those, well, all of us have situations during the day where we are acting on our feelings. And sometimes it's very useful because if we should like think about every situation, then the brain would totally burn out. So we also act on our feelings to relax our brain. But when we have a goal and when we have a mission that we want to complete, then we need to think about what kind of values we need to bring into the situation to go there. So, in what kind of way do we want to act? In what kind of way do we need to act to get where we want to be? So, for example, about the parenthood, I want to be a parent that is listening to my kids' feelings and I want to understand what is going on. So instead of just yelling at my kid, I want to be more understanding and also listen more. So instead of just saying stuff to my kid, I want also to listen what is going on here. So in that situation, I should, where the kids is trying to challenging me or trying to get something that I don't understand. That's mostly the situations with kids. Then I want to go into the eyesight of my kid and try to understand what is going on, listen to his feelings. So in that way, I would be acting more on my values by trying to understand his feelings and listen to what he is trying to say to me. Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely that makes sense. So instead of just reacting and maybe just shouting back, then focusing on the values that you really want to act on, and then how those values manifest as action you desire. So here being more understanding, open ears, in under such is a bit of a pressured situation with your child at one point.
Yeah, and another example is when you are um, when you are training for something. Let's say that you are running and you are having a training where you are doing intervals. Then you are supposed to run fast in some intervals, but during the intervals you are getting tired and tired and tired, and your thoughts are running and want you to slow down because you're tired, and by running fast it makes you uncomfortable. But if you're listening to your thoughts and slow down, then you are not getting the training that you wanted to do. So in that situation, you need to not listen to your thoughts and go the way that you want to before you started. Act like you want to do to get the intervals done like you want to. And in all situations, this Pinocchio exercise is really nice because Pinocchio is a boy that is having a lot of bands, which is can move without all the bands.
Yeah, so like those strings or bands, like
Yeah,
holding
strings.
holding him back, where there's someone else who's anyway controlling him, which is a deviation from who he wants to be, from the boy he wants to be.
Exactly. So the strings are moving Pinocchio like thoughts and feelings are in our situations. And in Pinocchio, you have, like we did it in the coaching, you have a head, two hands, and 2 feet. So you have 5 values that is holding back and not make it possible for you to act in another way. So it's like when you, like you said before, you are reacting. So it makes you react on the feelings and thoughts that you have. But if we are cutting those strings and put in values that will make us go the distance, then we are more aware of what we should do to go there. So we could use you as an example. So you had a mission to hold your breath for a long time, and there was 5 things that made it challenging for you to go there. And by being curious about what is holding you back, then you also figure out what should be instead of. Like, maybe when you hold your breath and you are getting into the situation where you want to breathe, then many people are feeling a bit anxious about continuing, because like my body is yelling that they want to breathe. So holding your breath, by continue holding your breath, then you need to be maybe brave. Try to really be brave and continue. It can also be that you need to be more curious instead of holding back and be safe, but be more curious about what is going on if I continue. So we are finding things that hold us back and try to put in some values that will help us in the situation. And when we have the values of, for example, brave and curious, then we need to break it down to some actions. So how can I be more brave when I'm holding my breath? How can I be more curious when I'm holding my breath? And that could, for example, be when you're brave, then you are like telling yourself, when you get to that point in your breath hold, that you are brave and you are curious. So you have this inner dialogue. So instead of just listen to your thoughts and go and do what they say, you are like getting another sentence that is, I am brave, I am curious. And it can also be that you are smiling to yourself. And curious, it can be that you are listening to what happens in your body. You are not afraid of feeling the contractions you get when you hold your breath. You're not afraid of feeling this feeling around your lungs that you really need to breathe. It's okay. You accept that this is a feeling, and you are curious about what else is going on in my body. Yeah. So that was example of how you can replace values on thoughts and feelings that is mostly holding you back from getting what you want.
Yeah, and when you're saying values, this is also something we talked about pre-recording. That we it could be great that we talk that we again further explain what's meant with values. Could it also be, let's say, not it's not only values like a value of being patient, but could another word for being of using another word for values? Couldn't it be character traits or limiting beliefs? I don't know if that could also be part of the what we identify as something that's holding us back, or how would you define those strings?
I think that character traits would not work, because character traits can sometimes limit yourself to being the person that you are born. Because I am the person that is have those character traits, so it's not that plastic, in my opinion. Maybe it can be useful in other opinions. But for me, I think that values is a very great word, because you can put different values into different situations. So that makes you more plastic, and you can adjust yourself into what you want to do, and you are not born in a way. Of course, we are all born with some character traits, but it is not that you need to be like that in the rest of your life. You are able to change yourself and change your mindset into the situation, so you get what you want.
Yeah, okay. So you rather that we use, again, it's values that we are holding us back and not character traits. But isn't it a bit like, let's say I'm a person who typically get very impatient pretty fast in many situations. It wouldn't that be considered as a character trait that's holding me back as a string, or how would you consider it in terms of the Pinocchio exercise?
Yeah, but that you are impatient is not meant that you need to be impatient the rest of your life. So that you are impatient is maybe because that you not have practiced to be patient. So let's see, if you were really trying to work on being more patient for the next 5 years, maybe you have another character trait then. So you're born with some traits, but you also are able to form your own character. And you are actually, that's actually what I like about this mental work, because you are able to work with that the rest of your life. And it is really worth to work with that the rest of your life, because your life is changing and you are meeting challenging situations from now on and the rest of your life. And you need to adjust the values and how you need to solve the situation, because you are also changing. So the situations you meet are different, and you also developing during the rest of your life.
Yeah. No, it definitely. Also, for example, someone starts working somewhere. 2 years later, you might meet the same person, and they are a bit different because they're acting from other types of values. Maybe a bit more straightforward, or yeah, being more empathic, having more empathy uh, when they are having conversations. But yeah. So as examples.
Yeah, and for example, I have been freediving for 12 years, and the disciplines are the same as when I started. And every season when I start freediving again, I am like feeling that I'm starting for scratch, on scratch. But the way that I start my season is different every year, because I am another person than I was last year. So what was working for me last year is not is maybe not working this year, because now I am another person. Well, not a super another a person, but I am maybe tackling mental situations different than I did last year. And that could be like, how is my life at the moment? It's influenced on how I am tackling my static breath hold, for example. If I am in love, then it's easier for me to be in challenging situations, because in another area in my life, it's like totally going great. But if I'm super sad in another area in my life, then it's maybe also more challenging to be in uncomfortable situations, because then life is really bad.
Yeah, yeah. And also in freediving, it is like it's 90. I don't know the percentage, but it's super mental and psychological. So it really also puts this concept on the magnifying glass that okay, it is we actually do change over time because our approach in freediving does change as time goes. So yeah, very interesting. So we have you said 5 values. Is that what you would focus on? Finding the 5 most prominent values that are holding us back from being the person we want to be, or is it is there yeah? How would you go about it? Let's say someone is now he's here listening to this and now wants to start doing this exercise on their own. How do they step by step go about this?
I think to start with, then it is most easy if you find a situation that you want to change. Maybe it's focusing on being a better partner, being a better parent, being better in training, to find like an area you really want to focus on, because then it's easier for you to find out what is challenging you. And when you have what is challenging you in this area, in this situation, then you also is able to find those values that hold you back, because it can be big to talk about how I can be a better person, or how I can be better in life, because life is a big thing. So find an area in life, in your life, that you're wanting to change, and then find out what is challenging you. Point out maybe 5 values. If you can't find 5 values, then find 3. But if you're finding more than 5 values, then it can also be difficult to work on, because then there is a lot of focus points. So 5 values that you want to change. And then you find, when you have the 5 values, then you find the opposite value that would help you to act in another way. For example, what you talked about, you are a bit impatient. So the value that you wanted to put instead is patient. When you have the opposite value that would help you to be a better partner, be better in training, whatever you want to work on, then you are listing down how you can act these values in the situation. So how can you, for example, we talked about how we can be more brave, how we can be more curious. And another good example is many people are super focusing on the performance instead of the process. So by focusing on the performance, then it sometimes take away our awareness of the process and what we need to do in the process to get the top result that we want to. So if we have the performance as a value that we want to get away from, then we put in the process, and then we are trying to list down a way we can act in the process. That could be that we wanted to be more in the present, simple feeling what is going on here and now, trying to focus more on developing and not performing, that it's okay to fail, how we can learn from fail, and so on. So under the value that we wanted to act, then we put down how we can act. So it's more easy for us to put in the situation.
Yeah. So identify those limiting values, and then finding values that will replace those values, basically cut those strings that are holding us back. And then those new values, we go down the rabbit hole and really pinpoint the behaviors, the actions that are to manifest from those new values, so that we know, okay, how are we to, when we are then thinking, okay, I need to be brave in this type of situation, that entails that I need to do this, I need to do this. And obviously it's individual, what it entails to be brave in a certain situation for different people. um would you would you also recommend, this is something we did when we worked together, then I also went down and pinpointed the actions that follow from following the values that are holding me back, so from being, let's say, risk averse or like comfort seeking in breath holding, and then writing down, going down the rabbit hole, okay, what the consequences or what actions happen from that, and the consequences, or what do you think?
Yeah, because like sometimes the behaviors that limit ourselves is the way that we are finding the behaviors at first, and then it ends out in a value that is limiting us. So it's more easy for us to see what kind of behaviors that limits us, and then you are like trying to sum up, okay, maybe that's this value that is limiting me.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, because then yeah, it's also easier to think about, okay, how I behave, and this is limiting behavior, something I don't want to, a way I don't want to behave. Oh, where does that come from? Where the source of that? Ah, okay, that's from a value of being impatient or comfort seeking, that this is coming from.
Yeah, so thinking about our behavior is a way to get into the talk about values. Because otherwise, if we start with values, then it can be super abstract, like to get a sense of what values are for a thing. But if we have the behaviors, then it makes sense.
So now we've done the Pinocchio exercise. We have identified the limiting values that are holding us back from being the boy or girl we want to be in life, and we have found out now what are those new values that we want to replace those more limiting values. So that's in place now. We got this, we're written down. Yeah, it can be highly recommended to write this down so you have it on paper and you can see it for yourself. So what's next now in terms of some extra tool we can put in terms of making this even more applicable in terms of going for our mission in life?
When you have made your Pinocchio exercise, then I would totally recommend people to get themselves into those uncomfortable situations so they can start work with their new values. So not being afraid of getting into those situations where you are feeling the pressure and you're feeling the uncomfortable feelings and thoughts, try to meet them. When you are in this situation, you are able to start working with the next. I think we should talk about register what you are feeling, try to release from thoughts and feelings, and then refocus on your acts. On your values and the actions on the value. So in the situations where you're feeling uncomfortable, then it's really important that you are able to be in the present. So you are able to be in the situation with all the feelings and thoughts that comes up. When you are able to be there and not think about the future and the past, then you are able to register your thoughts and feelings, and the thoughts or feelings that comes in that situation that creates the situation. So the thoughts and feeling is it forms the uncomfortable situation. It forms that you feel that the situation is uncomfortable. So it's also the thoughts and feelings that we often react on. So if we need to, if we want to not react on the thoughts and feelings, then we need to be in the present and just listen to the thoughts and feelings and not react on them. So that's the first thing. We need to register what is going on in the situation. What kind of thoughts and feelings do we have in the situation? Not react on them, but try just to listen to it. When we know what is going on in the situation, what kind of thoughts and feeling is going on, then it's easier for us to release from it, to take a distance to the thoughts and feelings. So when you're holding your breath, then in the beginning it feels like super nice. You are calm and there is no signals in the body yet. But at one point, then it changed, and your body is starting to coming with some signals to start breathing again. And in that situation, then you are feeling uncomfortable. The contractions is creating an uncomfortable situation. And in that moment, you are starting to think a lot, and you are starting to feeling a lot. And when you are holding your breath again and again and again, then it will be easy for you to figure out that the same thoughts and the same feelings are coming up. And also that you are figuring out what are the thoughts trying to telling you, what are the feelings trying to get you to do. When you have this map on the thoughts and feelings, what they want you to do, then it's more easy to say, no, that's not the way I want to go. It's not the way I want to be. I want to be like this. So instead of just thinking that thoughts are coming up and you need to react on it, then try to think that thoughts are thoughts. It's just some inner messages that you can take in, but you can also just send it out again. It's not something you need to act on. So when you have more awareness of what kind of thoughts comes into your mind, what kind of feelings do you have in your body, and what are they trying to make you to do, then it's more easier to take a distance to it, because then you know the thoughts, you know the feelings, you know the situation when it comes. So you have a super detailed map on yourself in this situation. When you have registered different thoughts and feelings that typically comes up into your mind when you are in pressured situations, then it's easier for you to take a distance to it, because you know exactly what is going on. And there is different ways to release from the thoughts and feelings that comes into your mind in an uncomfortable situation. And that could, for example, be you have different thoughts coming into your mind, and you have different boxes, like you imagine you have different boxes. So when a thought comes into your mind, you figure out, okay, what are the thoughts about? When you're holding your breath, some thought can be about how long have I hold my breath now? So it's something about time. Then I put the thought about time into the boxes about time. You can make all those boxes you want to and what you need to, so you can categorize the thoughts into the right boxes. So you don't feel the thought, you are not like reacting on the thought, you're just taking the thought that comes into your mind and put it into the right box. So that's a way to distance yourself to the thoughts that comes up into your mind in an uncomfortable situation. Another way of taking a distance to the thoughts and feelings in the situation is that sometimes when you are in this uncomfortable situation, then you are not realizing that you are starting to see everything super dark. You are like getting those negative thoughts and not super light.
Yeah, so like a muddied up picture of how life is right now, kind of.
Exactly. So even though that you're not wanting to do it, then you are starting to mud up the situation. And in that situation, it can be helpful to imagine that you are wearing sunglasses, which is a dark way of seeing the situation. And when we know all that when we have been wearing these sunglasses for a while, then we have forgotten that we are having the sunglasses on. So in that situation, it can be helpful to think about removing the sunglasses to see how the situation would be if we were not putting all the negative thoughts into the situation. How is the situation as clear as it is without all the thoughts that we are putting into the situation?
Yeah, so more looking at it more objectively in a way, right? Like
Yeah.
trying to get out of our own head in a way and see, okay, how is situation actually? It's sun is shining, nobody's dead near me. Like, yeah, I suppose like.
Yeah, so for example, when we are, a good example is in the free diving, is that when we are getting to that point where we are starting to get the contraction, the signals from our body that we need to breathe, well, it wants us to breathe, we don't need to, then the negative thoughts often starts running because those contractions are feeling uncomfortable. So we are starting to feel that the situation is not nice. We're starting to maybe not believe in ourselves anymore. Well, am I able to hold my breath for 5 minutes today? Well, not. So I better give up. It's waste of time being here. I'm maybe not a super freediver anymore. Maybe I should stop freediving. And all those thoughts are coming into your mind, and it totally ruins the situation. You're seeing the situation in dark light or through the sunglasses. So if you are removing the sunglasses, then you are able to see the situation as it is. So in this situation, then you would be able to see the contractions as muscle contractions. It's a part of a breath hold. You cannot not feeling the contractions. And if you are trying to relax, then it doesn't feel that hard. It's just muscle contractions. It's nothing else. And sometimes it can open your eyes and see, all right, it's not that dark. Or maybe taking a towel to just clear your face, to remove all the darkness, the dark thoughts and feelings, remove it from yourself, and then try to see the situation as simple as it is. So that is two really powerful tools that I think is super nice to take a distance to the thoughts and feelings. The one with when you are categorizing thoughts and feelings, then you are like trying to practice not to take the thoughts and feelings so near. And the sunglasses makes you remove it when you maybe start rolling with negative thoughts.
I also really like the I am noticing release strategy. So instead of you did this to me where you said, okay, try to say that I'm feeling sad today. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling sad. Say this 3 times. You told me to do that at the time, and then instead of now, instead say, I am noticing the feeling of sadness. I'm noticing the feeling of sadness. So by saying this 3 times, not because you have to do that when you're actually using that release strategy, but just to exemplify, then you can really feel that you're distancing yourself from it. So, for example, if something would happen, I'm running and suddenly I'm getting this thought about, oh, I need to stop, then like that, oh, I'm noticing this thought, and then that's that. That itself, just by taking this observational role, I'm observing this is happening, then you just get distance from it in many cases, actually, at least.
Yeah, that's also a good way to distance the thought from yourself, because then you are not like identifying yourself with the thought or feeling. It's just something that you are noticing.
Yeah, like watching an aquarium, you're watching some fish swimming, and the fish here is doing something there.
Yeah, because let's take that example with the sadness. If you are imagine that you are feeling sad, then it requires a lot of work to turn that feeling. Like, how can I be happy again when I'm sad? But if you're noticing some sadness, then it's more easy to maybe figure out what is creating this sadness and how can I maybe put some other stuff into this situation so I'm more happy, but also accept that sadness is also okay. It can also be there, but it's not the whole situation.
Yeah, like you're not the feeling. It is a feeling you have, but
I am not the
yes,
feeling.
yes, definitely. Um, could we maybe touch base on the bus passenger release strategy before we go to the next part? Because I think this could also be helpful for some in terms of having a bus route. I don't know if you want to go into it.
Yeah, because that would also go straight into the last point. Because imagine that you are a bus driver and you are having a route that goes straight to what you want to complete. And on this route, there is a lot of bus stop. And every time you stop the bus, then some passengers will go into the bus and some passengers will leave the bus. Imagine that those passengers are thoughts and feelings, and your route is the process to complete your goal. So, to make it more maybe visionary, is I am holding my breath. My whole breath hold is a bus route. And during my breath hold, there will be some passengers going on and some passengers will leave the bus during my breath hold. Many passengers will just drop in and drop off without you noticing that they are dropping in and off. It's just some thoughts coming in and some thoughts going out. But there is also some passengers, we know them all, that goes into the bus and place themselves in front, sitting next to you as a bus driver, and they start talking to you, even though that it's not allowed to talk with the bus driver while he is driving. But this passenger doesn't take care. He or she is talking and is trying to make you take another route. So this feeling is trying to make you react on it. It could, for example, be, if we are trying to take the breath hold again, that this passenger coming into the bus is trying to say, oh, I want to breathe, let's go up so I can breathe. If I was listening to this passenger, then I would definitely go up and breathe. I could also try to get into a discussion with this passenger and trying to argument that, well, it's not the time to breathe now. I can definitely hold my breath for a longer time. And the passenger would say, no, you cannot. And, oh, yes, I can. And then you will have this inner argument that will take all the energy from you. You could also try to say that the passenger is not allowed on this bus. And you would do anything to keep that thought away from your bus. But in that situation, you would also use all your energy to not let the thought or passenger come in. Instead, we should try to, first of all, just say to the thought that it could replace itself down in the bus and not in the front of the bus. If that's not working, then we need to just accept that the passenger is sitting there and it's talking. You don't have to listen to it. It's just the passenger, it's just a feeling that is trying to make you take another route. But you have your clear route to take. So every time that you're noticing that he or she is talking, then you just refocus on your own route. And that is a great way to talk about the last point, refocusing. Because when we are noticing that there is a passenger, a thought or feeling that is trying to get us into another route, then we stop up and refocus on how we want to act, how we want to be in this situation. So instead of listen and argument a lot about this thought or feeling, then we just noticing it is there and it's okay. It's just some background noise, and then full awareness on the values that we want to have in this situation, the way that we want to act in this situation. So that could, for example, be that if we have this impatient value, that the passenger wants you to just start having those contractions so we can be done with this breath hold, just come up and then we are done. But we want to be more patient. We want to just be in the present and see what's going on. So that's the way we want to act instead. We notice that there is some impatient thoughts going on and it wants us to act in a certain way, but we are focusing on being present, being in the process, take what comes when it comes, not trying to rush it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then in those situations where you have thoughts and feelings that maybe are of a bit more of a overwhelming character, that's where we would use the release strategies, right? That's where we, for example, would say, "Oh, I'm noticing this is happening," to create distance to those overwhelming thoughts, feelings, to then get back and refocus on the values we want to be acting from, right?
Yeah. So using the release strategies makes it more easy for us to accept the passengers on the bus, to accept that they are a part of the process, because thoughts and feelings are a part of every situation. We cannot say that they cannot be there, because when we're trying to say that a thought cannot be a part of the situation, then our brain will start scan for all that reminds of this thought, and we will get double of it. So we need to accept that thoughts and feelings are a part of every uncomfortable situation and also a comfortable situation. But the way to get the best out of the situation is to accept those thoughts and feelings as a part of the process, but know that we don't need to act on the thoughts and feelings. We can act on values instead. So when we're having this register, release, and refocusing, then we are able to register the now, the present. We are able to release from the thoughts and feelings in the present that is trying to get us to make another route, but choose the route that we started with by refocusing on our values.
Yeah, yeah. And those release strategies, just to be clear, it's not like we have to use a release strategy for every thought and emotion. It's more there where it's this, like the passenger that starts talking to us, wanting us to change direction. That because it can also be tiring to be using. Okay, now I use this release strategy and this because now I'm getting this thought and this feeling, right? So it's reserved for those feelings and thoughts where they start to really try to force us into this more emotional route.
Yeah, exactly. Because if we should starting to act on every thought and feeling, then our brain would totally burn out. But in the beginning, when you're starting to work with the mentality, then try to put the release strategies into like smaller situations where you're not feeling like super uncomfortable, just to practice the way of using it to help yourself like practice it. So when you're getting into the more difficult situations, then it's more easy to bring in and not just react on the thoughts and feelings because it's so difficult to be in. But then it's more easy to bring in a release strategy and try to act in a way that you want to.
Yeah. So a bit like with the register part, like having a period of time where you go through into the same uncomfortable situation multiple times, so you can identify the patterns. So having a period of where you get familiarized with how the thoughts and feelings are when you are in that situation, the registering part, and then the same thing goes with the release strategies. Then have a period of time where you play around with those different release strategies to see what works, what doesn't work that much, because it is also individual what is effective to someone in terms of the use of those release strategies.
Yeah. And then I would definitely recommend that all people that are listening to this is starting just to register what is going on in different situations. Many of us are like maybe too fast sometimes to get into a solution. We want to act in every kind of situations before we even know what is going on in the situation. So use a lot of time to get to know the situation and to get to know yourself in uncomfortable situations. So listen, be curious about what is going on in those situations, what kind of thoughts and feelings are typically present in those situations, and what does these thoughts and feelings want me to do? Because like in our coaching course, then we used maybe I think it was 1 month only registering situations in your life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then 1 month that was focused on just the release strategies, and then 1 month of refocus. So spending some time on it, and then once you've done this background work, then when you are in those situations, then it becomes more immediate and more natural in terms of how you apply those release strategies and how you perform in under different stressful situations. Yeah. But yeah, so we are getting near time limit for today. So it's also I think also we need to round it up. Although we could definitely go more in detail. I have a lot more questions, but that will have to be for another time. Before we end today's episode, Camilla, um, then I would love to hear if you have any book recommendations that you could lead someone onto, if they want to go more in depth with this concept that we've talked about.
Yes, I have a book recommendation. It's on the theory that I'm using in my coaching courses. It's a theory that is called ACT. It stands for Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, which means that you accept the feelings and thoughts that comes into those situations that you are into, and you are trying to commit to the values that you want to act upon. And this book is really great because it helps you to be more flexible in your mindset and adjust into different situations, and it's great also to practice mindfulness and so on. It's nice.
Okay, good. But I will link this in the show notes for the listener, for those who might be interested in reading further. But most importantly, then, what are your handles, Camilla? If someone wants to work with you, and wants to follow you and get to know more about you, where would you send them over to?
You can find me on Instagram, Camilla Salling Olsen. And you can also find me and contact me on even Instagram or through my website, camillasalingolsen.dk. It's all in Danish. So maybe it's easier on Instagram if you're not understanding Danish. That's a places I am
Yeah, so that's pretty much it for now, Camilla. I just want to thank you for being on today's episode, and I'm very sure that if applied, then this will have a huge impact for the listeners. Thanks for finding time to in your busy life as a new mother to get on the today's episode.
Thanks for letting me say a lot of thoughts and feelings.
And last but not least, thanks again for our coaching course together. It really helped. I still use a lot of to this day the concept that we discussed today in the episode. It's been very valuable, not only in terms of free diving, but in so many other areas. So. Thank you again. I've been thanking you so many times over this year, but I want to thank you once more. so
Well, it's me that thanks, and also thanks yourself, because like all the work is what you put into it. I just creates the I just facilitate the process.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there you have it, dear listeners. If you use it, it will more than likely work. So thanks for being on, Camilla, and take care. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Camilla Salling Olsen with the scissors to help us cut our strings to become the girl or boy we always wanted to be. Check out the show notes for the link to the book recommendation and to Camilla's handles. Thanks for listening, and make sure to subscribe to the tribe if you haven't already, because we got more episodes coming that are meant to help you live a fit and plant-based lifestyle and become the best you. If you're interested in going vegan right away, having an ebook that will help you make some delicious vegan meals, understand the macros, calories, and even having some free workouts, then go check out the ebook that we provide for free in exchange for your email address, where you get onto our newsletter, where we only send out valuable content and not spam you with all kind of mails. Go to myveganpersonaltrainer.com/how to go vegan. How to go vegan is just in one word, no spaces, no dashes or anything. Take care until next time. Change your mindset, change your life.
Thanks for listening to the My Vegan Personal Trainer podcast with Rami at www.myveganpersonaltrainer.com.